What happens when the atmosphere decides to unleash 5 major weather events simultaneously across the United States? These wind chills will approach minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit in some areas. A massive Arctic air mass is organizing over northern Canada right now. This air mass will begin its southward journey into the United States later this week. This represents the second major Arctic outbreak of the season for the northern United States. Current computer model projections suggest it may be even more intense than the previous event. The core of this Arctic air mass will bring temperatures 40 degrees below normal. These extreme temperatures will primarily affect North Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. In practical terms, this translates to actual air temperatures of minus 10 to minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. These temperatures will persist across these regions for multiple days consecutively. When combined with anticipated wind speeds, wind chill values will plummet dramatically. Wind chills will reach minus 30 to minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit throughout the affected areas. The most critical safety information comes at 3 minutes and 20 seconds. These are not just uncomfortable conditions, they represent genuinely life-threatening cold. Medical experts warn that frostbite can develop in exposed skin within 5 to 10 minutes. This rapid onset of frostbite occurs at these extreme temperature levels even with minimal wind. Recent analysis of computer models suggests this Arctic outbreak will primarily impact specific regions. The Great Lakes and Northern Plains regions will bear the brunt of this extreme cold. Earlier forecasts had indicated the possibility of this extreme cold extending much farther south. However, updated model runs show a more contained geographic footprint for the worst conditions. This is actually positive news for residents of the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Southeast. In these areas, the worst of the Arctic air is now expected to remain well to the north. However, the intensity within the primary impact zone remains unchanged and extremely serious. I'll detail exactly which highways and metropolitan areas face the highest risk for flash freeze conditions over the next 18 hours. The National Weather Service will likely issue extreme cold warnings for affected areas. Residents in the impact zone should begin preparation immediately, rather than waiting for official warnings. Home heating systems should be inspected and serviced to ensure reliable operation during the extreme cold period. Any necessary repairs or maintenance should be completed before the Arctic air arrives. Pets and livestock require special protection, as these temperatures can be fatal to animals without adequate shelter. Water pipes in unheated areas should be protected or allowed to drip slightly. This prevents freezing and potential bursting, which becomes a major concern in extreme cold. Vehicle preparations become critical for anyone who must travel during these conditions. Emergency kits should include blankets, food, water, and communication devices for each vehicle. Fuel tanks should be kept as full as possible to prevent fuel line freezing. Let's begin with what's happening right now across the Mid-Atlantic region. Adding another layer of complexity to this weather situation is a significant geomagnetic storm developing in space. A coronal mass ejection erupted from the sun on December 6th. This solar event is sending a massive cloud of charged particles toward Earth at high velocity. This solar material is expected to interact with Earth's magnetic field tomorrow, December 9th. This interaction will create what space weather experts classify as a G3-level geomagnetic storm. Current models suggest Earth may narrowly miss the most intense portion of the solar particle cloud. The highest plasma density is forecast to pass south of our planet, reducing potential impacts. However, if the solar storm proves more intense than currently predicted, conditions could escalate. The storm could upgrade to G4 levels, creating additional complications for infrastructure systems. Potential impacts include minor disruptions to GPS navigation, radio communications, and internet connectivity. Light snow is currently falling throughout portions of West Virginia, and North Carolina. Airlines may need to adjust flight routes for polar flights to avoid radiation exposure at high altitudes. On the positive side, this geomagnetic activity may produce aurora displays visible from northern states. These displays could be seen from Maine, Washington, and potentially areas around the Great Lakes. Visibility will depend on clear skies and the actual intensity of the geomagnetic storm. Now, let's examine what these multiple weather systems mean for the broader pattern over the next 6 to 10 days. Long-range computer models indicate that colder than normal conditions will persist east of the Rocky Mountains. This will particularly affect the Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, and Northeast regions. The intense Arctic air, initially concentrated over the northern plains, will gradually spread southward and eastward. However, temperatures will moderate somewhat as the air mass moves away from its source region. The mid-Atlantic region through New England can expect continued very cold conditions over the next 10 days. This system is particularly deceptive because it's not the snow accumulation itself that poses the greatest danger. These conditions won't be as extreme as the levels forecast for the upper Midwest. Conversely, a strong high-pressure ridge will continue building over the Southwest. This will maintain warmer than normal temperatures from Los Angeles northward to Boise and Denver. This creates a stark continental divide in temperature patterns across the United States. Some locations may experience temperature differences of 60 degrees or more compared to areas just a few hundred miles away. This pattern has important implications for energy consumption and costs throughout the affected regions. Northern states will see heating demand surge well above seasonal norms. This could potentially strain both natural gas supplies and electrical generation capacity. Utility companies have already begun implementing conservation measures and preparing for peak demand scenarios. Agricultural operations across the affected regions face significant challenges from these weather patterns. Snowfall totals across the Blue Ridge Mountains are expected to reach 1 to 4 inches. Livestock will require additional feed and shelter to maintain body temperature in extreme cold conditions. Dairy operations typically see production decreases during extended cold periods. This occurs as animals direct energy towards staying warm rather than milk production. Transportation systems will face ongoing challenges beyond the immediate weather events. Extreme cold affects vehicle reliability, particularly diesel engines and commercial trucks and trains. Airport operations may experience delays due to aircraft de-icing requirements and equipment limitations. These operational challenges become more severe when temperatures reach extreme levels for extended periods. For families and individuals, this weather pattern requires careful planning and preparation. Emergency supply kits should include sufficient food, water, medications, and warmth sources for several days. These supplies become critical during potential isolation periods when travel becomes impossible. Localized areas near Richmond could potentially see up to 4 inches of accumulation. Communication plans become essential when power outages or equipment failures may disrupt normal channels. Alternative heating sources should be inspected and tested before they become necessary. Proper ventilation and carbon monoxide safety must be ensured for any alternative heating methods. The economic implications of this weather pattern extend far beyond immediate response costs. Retail businesses across the affected regions anticipate significant disruptions during peak holiday shopping periods. Supply chain disruptions from transportation delays and distribution center closures may affect product availability. These disruptions could impact availability for several weeks following the weather events. Insurance companies are preparing for increased claims related to burst pipes and heating system failures. Weather-related vehicle accidents also typically increase during extreme weather periods. Historical analysis shows that extreme winter weather events of this magnitude can reduce regional economic activity. Higher elevations in West Virginia could accumulate over 8 inches of snow. Reductions of 2 to 5% during the peak impact period are typical for events of this scope. As we look toward the remainder of December and the upcoming holiday travel season, several factors suggest continuation. This active weather pattern may continue throughout the rest of the month. Jet stream configurations remain highly amplified, creating conditions favorable for additional extreme weather events. Ocean temperature patterns in both the Pacific and Atlantic continue supporting enhanced storm development. Long-range climate models suggest the current pattern may persist through the end of December. This could have potential impacts on Christmas travel plans for millions of Americans. Don't miss the crucial safety update in our next forecast. I'll detail the specific timeline for when these extreme conditions will peak and begin moderating. To summarize the key safety priorities for the next 48 hours across all affected regions. However, most areas in North Carolina will see less than 2 inches of total snowfall. Mid-Atlantic residents should prepare for hazardous travel conditions Tuesday morning due to flash freeze potential. This affects roadways and bridges throughout Virginia, West Virginia, and North Carolina. Upper Midwest communities need to complete preparations for life-threatening cold conditions arriving later this week. Pacific Northwest residents should monitor flood warnings and avoid unnecessary travel in areas prone to mudslides. Next week, I'll provide comprehensive analysis of the developing weather pattern for the Christmas holiday period. This will include detailed travel advisories and regional forecasts for December 20th through January 2nd. Stay safe, stay informed, and remember that weather preparedness today prevents emergencies tomorrow. Today is December 8th, 2025, and the next 48 hours will test our weather preparedness like few days in recent memory. Here's the timeline that matters most for your safety and travel plans. By 1 to 2 p.m. today, intermittent heavy snow will stretch from Greensboro and Winston-Salem in North Carolina. This snow band will extend northward toward Virginia Beach, creating a distinct rain-snow line. Accumulation will be minimal south of this line, but significant north of that boundary. Between Roanoke, Lynchburg, and Richmond, conditions will be all snow, creating serious travel difficulties. The snow activity will largely end by midnight tonight. Only scattered snow showers may extend as far south as New Bern in North Carolina after that time. By 1 to 2 a.m. Tuesday morning, the precipitation will clear completely from the region. But here's where this situation becomes genuinely dangerous for everyone in the area. The snow is being caused by a powerful cold front moving through the region. From a stealth snow system targeting the mid-Atlantic region to life-threatening Arctic conditions approaching the northern states. Once this front passes completely, temperatures will plummet rapidly into the teens and 20s overnight. This dramatic temperature drop will cause any slush, wet pavement, or melted snow to freeze instantly. This creates what meteorologists call flash freeze conditions across the entire region. Even areas that receive only a dusting of snow will likely have glazed over roadways tomorrow morning. This creates a particularly hazardous situation for the Tuesday morning commute throughout the Mid-Atlantic. Bridges and overpasses along Interstate 95 and Interstate 64 will be especially dangerous. These elevated surfaces lose heat more rapidly and freeze before regular roadways do. Transportation officials strongly recommend treating any wet-looking roads tonight and tomorrow morning as ice-covered. Departure times should be adjusted to allow extra travel time throughout the affected areas. Speed should be reduced significantly, and cruise control should be avoided entirely on potentially icy surfaces. Multiple weather systems are converging in ways that demand our immediate attention. Some locations near Richmond may approach 5 inches of snow accumulation. This would make it the most significant December snowfall for Central Virginia in several years. Now, let's turn our attention northward to a completely separate weather system. This system is developing into what meteorologists classify as a powerhouse Alberta clipper. This system will affect Minnesota, North Dakota, Wisconsin, and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan over the next 48 hours. Unlike the Mid-Atlantic system, this clipper will produce substantial snow accumulations. There will be no complications of mixed precipitation types with this northern system. Snowfall totals of 6 to 8 inches are expected across much of Minnesota and portions of North Dakota. Northern Wisconsin will also see similar accumulation amounts through Wednesday morning. The Upper Peninsula of Michigan could receive more than 6 inches over the next couple of days. This isn't just another winter forecast. We're looking at a complex meteorological situation. This snowfall won't occur all at once, but rather in waves over the extended time period. The clipper system will affect the region today through tonight. Additional accumulations will continue tomorrow through Wednesday across the entire area. Metropolitan areas under winter weather advisories include Minneapolis, Grand Forks, and Duluth. The warnings also extend to Green Bay and southward toward Lansing and Muskegon in Michigan. Weather prediction models are showing remarkable consistency in tracking this system. This gives meteorologists high confidence in the snowfall forecasts for all affected areas. Now, here's the critical information I promised at 3 minutes 20 seconds. This concerns the most dangerous road conditions developing across multiple regions. The combination of ongoing snowfall in the upper Midwest and flash freeze conditions in the mid-Atlantic is significant. This will impact millions of Americans from Virginia to Minnesota, from the Pacific Northwest to the Great Lakes. This creates a corridor of hazardous travel extending from North Carolina to northern Minnesota. For the Mid-Atlantic region, the highest risk time frame begins this evening around 6 p.m. These dangerous conditions will continue through 10 a.m. Tuesday morning across the entire region. Interstate 95 from Richmond north to the Washington, D.C. metro area represents the greatest concern for black ice formation. Similarly, Interstate 64 through Central Virginia will experience dangerous conditions. This is particularly true on elevated sections and in shaded areas where ice persists longer. In the upper Midwest, travel impacts will be most severe along Interstate 35. This includes the route from Minneapolis northward to Duluth and along Interstate 94 through Wisconsin. State transportation departments have pre-positioned salt trucks and snow removal equipment. However, the rapid onset of both systems may initially overwhelm road treatment capabilities. Right now, as you're watching this, snow is already falling across Virginia and North Carolina. Commercial airlines have already begun adjusting flight schedules in anticipation of weather impacts. Minneapolis St. Paul International has implemented winter weather protocols for safe operations. Richmond International is monitoring conditions for potential ground delays Tuesday morning. Don't miss the next segment where I'll detail the atmospheric river impacting the Pacific Northwest. I'll explain why this system could trigger the most significant flooding of the winter season so far. While the eastern United States deals with snow and ice, the Pacific Northwest faces an entirely different challenge. This challenge is equally significant and potentially more dangerous than the eastern weather systems. A powerful atmospheric river has established itself along the Pacific coast. This system is delivering massive amounts of moisture from the Pacific Ocean directly into 3 states. Northern California, Oregon, and Washington are all in the direct path of this moisture stream. This is setting the stage for what meteorologists are calling one of the most dangerous commutes of the winter season so far. This weather pattern functions like a fire hose in the sky. It transports water vapor thousands of miles across the ocean and focuses it on a relatively narrow geographic region. Northern California is expected to receive 4 to 8 inches of rainfall over the next 48 hours. Oregon and Washington face even more substantial precipitation amounts across their entire states. These areas should expect 6 to 10 inches of rain in many locations. Some locations in the Pacific Northwest could potentially exceed 12 inches of total rainfall. The Cascade Mountains will receive 2 to 4 feet of new snow above 4,000 feet elevation. While this benefits ski resorts and water supply reservoirs, it creates serious avalanche hazards. These hazards pose significant risks for backcountry travelers and mountain communities. At lower elevations, the warm atmospheric river temperatures will accelerate snowmelt from previous storms. At the 5-minute mark, I'll reveal the specific timing and locations where Arctic air will create life-threatening wind chills. This accelerated melting will add significantly to total water runoff throughout the region. River systems throughout Oregon and Washington are already running higher than normal. This is due to recent precipitation events that have saturated soils across the entire Pacific Northwest. The additional 6 to 12 inches of rainfall could push several rivers above flood stage. This is particularly concerning in urban areas where storm drainage systems may become overwhelmed. Mudslide risks increase significantly on slopes that have been saturated by previous storms. Residents in foothill areas should monitor local emergency communications closely. They should be prepared for potential evacuation orders or shelter recommendations from local authorities. And now, as promised at the 5-minute mark, here's the detailed information about life-threatening Arctic conditions. These conditions are developing across the northern states and will arrive later this week.